Hello, my name is Michael Salmony, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode where we look at everything that is interesting around payments and fintechs and modern ways of doing finance. And today I'm very lucky to have Martina, who is probably one of the busiest people in Europe on this subject. So thank you, Martina, for joining me here.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for the introduction and for having me. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anybody who's been living under a rock will not have known that Martina is the CEO of EPI, which is one of the most exciting developments in Europe. And if I understand it right, you are basically trying to connect all countries, all channels, all ways of paying across all 27 member states. Is that roughly right?
That would be the end vision, maybe. Besides the all channels, if you allow me, we are focusing very much on mobile. That doesn't mean that we are not able to function with laptops, but the main channel is the mobile. And in the mobile, we have two, if you want, ways of functioning through the mobile banking apps or through what we call the standalone app, which is the app of EPI. So the solution will be called Vero, as you might have seen. So that is our own app. Otherwise, full integration into the mobile banking app with the same brand, Vero, and the same services, same scope, but a different way of interacting, of course, with the client, because we need to be natively integrated into the mobile banking apps or have the standalone app. And when you talk about the 27 countries, I would love to, but we have to start somewhere. So we start with, I would say, Western Europe and with France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. The first three countries are France, Germany, and Belgium. And then the Netherlands and Luxembourg will follow. That is a nice starting point because altogether these markets represent 64% of all European retail transactions, which is of course not Europe, but a very substantial part of Europe and at least a very nice starting point. So we are very happy that we can have this go live with these markets.
That's very impressive. And as I understand it, it is across all channels. So you can use it at the point of sale and e-commerce, peer-to-peer and everything, at least in the final stage, right? Is that roughly right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the idea is really to create a tool that a consumer can use for all kind of retail use cases, meaning he should be able in the first place to do P2P. P2P is for us a nice way how to get into the market because it's playful, it's easy. It's also not too much engagement or commitment from the consumer because, when I pay back a friend or send a gift, then it's almost nice or funny as an experience, especially since in our case, it will be received within 10 seconds, actually less, but that's at least a promise so that it is instantly on your account, available funds for you to do whatever you want with it and not on an intermediary account or somewhere else where you have to wait for it to get the money. So instantly available as a first use case and to get the consumer familiar with the solution. And then we will go into e-commerce and what we call scan and go, which is allowing to scan a QR code in the street or in a shop, but not going then through a cash register or something else, but just finalizing the transaction on your mobile phone. So you can buy, I don't know, the pair of sneakers that you see on your way through the city and finalize the order on your smartphone. And it becomes, a mobile initiated, QR code initiated transaction. That is nice because it's an additional channel. It's something which we see as a contribution to omnichannel. And then we will go on at the same time with things like invoice payments, P2 Pro, so professional payments, so that I can allow doctors, fitness coaches, music teachers, whatever, gardeners, plumbers, babysitters to receive the money. and not having to go for a card terminal or whatever complex solution, but allowing this functioning while issuing e-receipts or proof of payment, which is also nice, and while allowing to grant a certain level of privacy also, because you could have a QR code, for example, on a flea market where I don't give my email address or my mobile number, but I can receive the money based on the QR code that I generate and which is scanned by the party that wants to buy something from me. So the last use case will be really the plain vanilla shop integration, so the POS integration, where we see the least potential because, yeah, people are very happy with their contactless functioning. So that is more towards the end of the journey. But what for us is crucial on that way is that we integrate a lot of value-added services, things like the merchant loyalty program integration, so that you as a consumer, when you buy, you earn your points automatically, but that you can also use them for a transaction, things like subscription management and so on. So these value-added services going also into instant financing. So our solution of buy now, pay later is what I think will make it different, because it's not just the plain vanilla payment that counts, the transaction making. It's the whole, do I get the services I need as a consumer today in Europe, having a certain level of maturity when I'm doing digital transactions.
Wow, that is super impressive. I mean, that is extremely wide, not to say daunting. All the dimensions that you're exploring there, that's really impressive. And it ticks a lot of the right boxes. We're leveraging instant payments and QR codes and wallets, and it really looks very forward-looking. But I'd like to drill down a little bit into the European integration, how that's going to happen, because I think a number of people have a number of questions there. For example, you bought Ideal. How is that going to scale to Europe, right? You're going to make everybody, every country adopt Ideal now?
No, we are going to migrate Ideal. What that means is, I mean, Ideal is, of course, a very successful solution, growing strongly, which is very nice to see, having an impressive merchant acceptance network, which is very difficult to build up, as you know. So for us, that was a substantial asset to buy. So we are talking about more than 300,000 merchants here, and not just in the Netherlands, of course, but all over Europe, where Ideal has already its footprint. And the movement that we will now put into motion is that we will migrate not only, of course, the customers of the Dutch banks. You have seen that the 3 Dutch banks became shareholders of EPI when we did the transaction. So that is, of course, a nice movement because it guarantees the future evolution and development there. And we will migrate the acceptance network in cooperation with the acquirers. And the whole functioning ultimately will be on EPI. So you might be wondering, why did they do that? If they have a successful solution, it's more than 70% market share in the Dutch e-commerce. But they are also seeing that there is a need for wallet features, for more value-added services, for the development at point of sale and these omni-channel features. So the crucial question, strategic question, was for the Dutch banks, do we develop this alone or do we join the broader perspective? And when you have already 70% market share, how much more can you really grow, right? So I think that choice is absolutely understandable. And of course, we are very happy about this movement. And we try to cooperate already a lot with Ideal in this direction.
Yeah, no, I understand the motivations from the Dutch side. I think for them, it's really good. I was more concerned about what's in it for your side. But you've explained that well, that's a basis and you're going to develop that into a new solution, which is a pan-European one, which will go beyond that, and that'll be adopted by others.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, coming also from the German market, we all know how difficult it is to succeed in e-commerce. Ideal is super successful in e-commerce. So it's 1.5 billion transactions that's a good reason to buy a solution, right? So with the merchant acceptance network, instead of saying, oh, let's do it all by ourselves, we already built the solution by ourselves. So it's kickstarting a little bit the whole thing and having something out there. And I think it's a good initial footprint.
No, I understand that. That sort of catapults you into a new sphere. I mean, there are some people who say, why didn't you go a different route? For example, interoperability, right? I know you don't like interoperability, but some people do. Like EMSA, for example, they connect lots of local payment solutions which already have large bodies, and that sounds quite clever. And they're also connecting with Alipay and already get. What's so wrong with going through interoperability?
I think interoperability looks like a fantastic concept on paper, meaning you have successful solutions. And of course, why not leveraging that great existence and that network of local solutions, which each of them are successful in their market, more or less, depending on the use cases. But nevertheless, I would say, and that is great. The problem comes with the feasibility of all this. While P2P might be still doable because it's between banks and so on, as soon as you get into this commerce space, you need the rules about liabilities, fraud prevention, consumer protection, dispute management. Do all these solutions have this? No. Do they all apply the same rules? No. Do they all have a business model? No. Do they have divergences? Yes. Do they have different services? Yes. So it requires a level of alignment, which comes, in my view, to something which is like an overlay scheme. So actually, you have to build something on top of all these different solutions to make it work. For what? For only the cross-border part. Can you justify a whole overlay service just for the cross-border part? That it becomes, in my view, very difficult. We did the calculations. We also invested a lot of time in assessing interoperability because, yes, of course, we need to be mindful about the success of these solutions, not destroying the value and the assets that they have created. But we don't see how you can make it successfully at a European scale. And that's maybe also one of the reasons why there are no big results from EMSA. They could do technical, you can always some way find a way to connect two solutions, but making it a full functioning solution is much more and way more challenging. So I think that didn't work and has, for me, a lot of challenges. But we will see it's different ways how to explore the future of payments in Europe. But last but not least, about interoperability, what do you do with the solutions, but with the markets who don't have a solution? Not every market has a successful solution in Europe. So do you leave them out of Europe because, they are not part of the spaghetti network? It's, for me, a challenge.
You've given three very good reasons. I mean, one, immediately what you do with those who there's nothing to interoperate with because they don't have anything. Another one is they have different technical and commercial models, and can you always actually interconnect those? And finally, you shouldn't just be doing the cross-border case. This was a thing we learned from SEPA, I think, that you've actually got to do everything in one way and not just handle the cross-border case. So that's a very good thing. Another topic some people have been saying is, why didn't you go through APIs, right? Because all banks have APIs. You could have built a pan-European solution on APIs. Why didn't that happen?
We do it with APIs, but I know to the discontentment of many, we don't do it with the existing APIs. When we started building, we tried to assess what is out there in Europe in terms of standards, and this, by the way, still goes on because now we have to assess also things for a point of sale, and so how do you roll that out? We aligned on certain European standards, like for the QR codes and so on, but for the APIs, after assessment, our conclusion was that we cannot cater for the needs that we identified, especially in what we call the advanced transaction types. You know, the plain vanilla simple transactions, I send money to a merchant account and that's it, is in e-commerce an important chunk, but not everything. And you need at least for 40–50% of the transactions more. Otherwise, yeah, you are too limited, which was, by the way, the case for Ideal. And you need to be able to do split payment, deferred payment, cashback, chargebacks, and pre-authorization, a full range, right? And deposits, what have you. So we found out that we can't do it based on the existing APIs. That's why it was a painful decision, but yeah, we had to go through a new setup. But
I mean, I understand from you now, Martina, that the functionality was not sufficient, but I understand also from a previous conversation, also they don't work well enough, right? They just aren't, the PIS and AIS APIs just aren't good enough.
So,
is that true?
Yeah, so for us, they were not sufficient to fulfill our needs. So yeah, it created quite some debate because, as you can imagine, many of our shareholders are members of the EPC and would have supported to rely on the existing APIs. But ultimately, what counts is that we are able to provide the service that we are expected to, right? And therefore, we had to come to this conclusion.
No, it's understandable. Yeah. And many others have reached the same conclusion and say they just don't work well enough and are not, which is a shame because we've all been working on this topic for long enough.
If you allow me, I mean, it might not be very satisfying, but honestly, all this initial work, of course, helps us also because we have team members who are aware of this, who understand this, who see the limitations. Maybe if that work was not there, then we would not be able to leverage now that knowledge, right? So we also can learn from all these things. And that is what we very much try to do and will continue to do, because let's be honest, we had a lot of developments and attempts in Europe. So we should leverage whatever has been done there.
Oh, super. The final question I would just have is more of a sort of policy and commercial one. Maybe I should actually ask the Commission on that one and not you, but I'd be interested in your opinion. It's about sovereignty, right? We're building EPI because we want to be more independent of other schemes. And in all other areas, agriculture, space, quantum, fisheries, whatever, the EU subsidizes this to make it happen if we want sovereignty. This hasn't happened for payments and EPI. I mean, I understand they can't subsidize banks, right? But could they not have subsidized merchants or you? Or why did that not happen?
At a certain point, we asked for public money because it's difficult to come up, for example, with a pan-European acceptance network, right? That's one of the reasons of the Ideal purchase, let's be clear. Because it's heavy, it's lengthy, it is really a burden in this investment case. I mean, we all know that. And yeah, we asked for that support because, we considered that we are complying with the retail payment strategy of the Commission and of the ECB, and they agreed to this. Nevertheless, they did not consider that it was worthwhile to support that financially, or to support this private initiative financially. So yeah, we had to accept it. And we are very lucky that our shareholders nevertheless managed to focus enough on this whole undertaking and to consider it as strategic enough to keep on going and to solve the financial challenges amongst them. And yeah, that's where we are now. Yeah,
I mean, I still find that strange, but as I say, maybe I should ask someone else there, because on the other hand, a lot of public money is being put into some rival solutions being run by the state, which presumably doesn't really help you, right? So in fact, it's negative funding that you're getting, right?
It's a strange environment in Europe. We make things strangely complex, I would say, at least from my perspective. But yeah, it is what it is, and the importance now is to go ahead and to deliver to the market, because the whole political talk, which we like so much in Europe, is one thing. The real thing is what happens in the market with the consumers and with the merchants, and ultimately that's the only thing that matters.
No, fantastic. And we all wish you the very best, because you are going to save us all from the foreigners, from fragmentation, from all the things that we really need. So
sounds like a big burden.
all power to you. And it's really great to see a bank-based solution with all the great attributes that you're describing. And thank you for your time, Martina, to explain this all to us.